Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. Welcome to another week. When we've experienced pain and grief, it can seem impossible to not only move through it, but to truly resolve all of these heavy emotions that we carry. We try all sorts of things to rid ourselves of the pain and sadness. We try to bury it deep down inside. We blame others and hold them accountable for the hurt that they've caused us and the circumstances that didn't work out. So we blame all of that for what we feel, and we can even decide to punish ourselves for a long period of time with what we've experienced, because we believe to a degree, maybe, that we actually did something to deserve feeling this insanely awful. If you are somebody who has struggled to find closure in your life, a relationship, a lost job, some missed opportunity that you believed you deserved, and you've not been able to move through it, and you've not only been ruminating over the situation, but also have become committed to feeling shitty about it and hopeless, I'm here today to tell you that there is a true strategy for closing the door firmly on the past and clearly cutting ties with those experiences. And it's not in the ways that you might think. So I'm going to explain to you what I'm talking about. Closure never includes anyone or anything else. Really doesn't. Shitty things happen to us, and in all reality, an apology or reparations from someone never really gets to the heart of the hurt. Right? We always think that if they would just own up, if they would just apologize, then the hurt would go away. Well, the hurt doesn't go away. Why does that not work? Because closure, healing, as some of you might refer to it, isn't about anything but us. It doesn't happen outside of us. I've had many challenging experiences in relationships in my life that have dropped me to my knees in grief and pain. I spent many years of my life trying to understand why these things happen. But I wasn't really doing that. In fact, what I was really doing is spending most of my life asking why I was being treated this way and not asking the right question to resolve my pain so that I could use it and move forward positively. You've heard me talk on multiple occasions about how life isn't meant for suffering, and it's true. Life is meant to be lived with meaning, purpose, contribution. Each of our lives are all designed to experience this under one condition: that we learn from our life experiences and use them to better ourselves in the world at large. We are all meant to come back to love. And that means even the most horrific experiences can be used for healing, expansion, and contribution to the greater good. I don't mean that you'll never forget what's happened to you. We don't. And that's actually important. I can't with the things that have happened to me in my life. But one thing I do know about those experiences is that I needed all of them. I needed the heartbreak from the relationships that I had to repeat themselves until I learned what I needed to learn. And damn, what a lifetime of learning curve that has been. It's taken me most of my life to get to where I am today and to get to what I'm telling you and teaching you about today. We experience repeated patterns of things in our lives until we ultimately accept the invitation to resolve our karmic debt with all of these things and master the lessons in the pain. So that's why closure never happens based on anything or anyone outside of you. Closure exists When we have decided to stop being a victim of our life and become active participants in creating difference for ourselves. I remember realizing several years ago that no matter how many supportive resources I had that could possibly help me move through the pain that I had, the pain was my own, and no one could take it away. I'm sure that if you're a parent of a human or a pet, you know firsthand that when your child or your pet is in pain, all you want to do is take it from them. And most parents of humans or furry kids know they would give everything they could to assume their child's pain or their animal's pain as their own to offer relief. I remember hearing my parents say this to me when I struggled. But while their love and intentions were honorable and genuine, they couldn't assume ownership of it. It was mine, and it belonged to me to figure out. And the only way out of my pain into resolve was for me to move through it until I understood it and figured out how to use it. I've spent most of my life doing the very best I could to help my friends and family and clients to get through life easier and to understand the basic principles of having a wonderful, powerful, and enlightened life. And it is within the principles of this episode and all of the other episodes that I try to help you do the same. Closure isn't some foreign process. There's no magic to finding closure in your life, no matter how horrible your circumstances have been. Closure, plain and simple, is the act of recognizing how you can use what's happened in your life and the pain associated with it, the grief that's associated with it, to be a better person, and then to help others do the same. Recently, my ex-boyfriend reached out to me because he had a dream that included me. While he never disclosed the nature of the dream or its specifics, he did tell me that we had a pivotal conversation within the dream that was heartfelt and deep, and that he needed to tell me that I was, in fact, a very important part of his life. Now, I knew that I was a pivotal person in his life back then, several years ago, especially during the time that I was with him. He even knew it, but he wasn't in a position in his life, emotionally, mentally, to truly acknowledge it and move forward in a lifelong relationship with me. And I have to say, thankfully, that wasn't the case, or I wouldn't have met the man that I'm with now. I love Gavin. What I realized early on was that we had karmic debt to settle. And just a hint to all of you out there, your life is all about settling karmic debt and learning how to live in a higher vibration. Our karmic debt had to do with lifetimes together. When I first met him, our hearts recognized each other, and immediately we both felt such a profound love for each other that we couldn't explain it. It was as if we met again. But the catch was, he was still operating from his typical ways of loving me, but not being able to commit fully to us. And as I connected the past life memories of our relationship, I realized that I had also practiced my typical way of loving him. I loved him with every ounce of me, and each time, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, I would end up with a broken heart because he would fail to commit to me fully. Our relationship ended up the same way in this lifetime, with one exception. It was time for me to resolve this shit and get on with my life in a bigger and better way, once and for all. And in this lifetime, I was given that opportunity. With greater commitments to myself and my heart through establishing healthier boundaries for myself and all parts of my life, I was able to do that. On the heels of my father's death 2 years ago, that night I met with him to end the relationship once and for all. We had broken up once before he initiated that one. I was devastated, and I had a very, very, very difficult time recovering, which was very unusual for me. I could not move through this grief. And once I realized that it was lifetimes of grief, it helped me understand why it was so deep and profound. We met one night. I initiated it. I was hours into the conversation with him that allowed me to share everything with him. I purged. I cleansed. I felt cleansed, and at a certain point in the evening, something amazing and magical happened. I experienced an out-of-body experience that helped me finally cut the cord with him in our past, leaving me free to move forward with a clean slate and a clear heart. All of a sudden, in the middle of our termination conversation, I saw a black line that covered his eyes and mouth, much like we would see a black line or a black space covering up somebody's private parts on TV. Then the whole room that was filled with people became completely silent. I then exited my body and hovered above to watch the scene from a distance. I saw myself turn into the booth seat that I was sitting in, and I took hold of my purse handles. I saw myself, without a word, just slide out of that seat and stand up. As my body took a few steps, I saw my hand lift up and tap him on his shoulder, and then I heard myself say, "You take care." Then I literally floated out of the restaurant to my car in the parking lot that was at least 300 feet away. I opened the door, and once I sat in my car seat, I was plunged back into my body. I was in shock, and I had no idea what the fuck happened. I felt embarrassed that I left like that. I would never do that. I always like to clean things up. But that wasn't the case with this. The truth about what happened, as I found out over the next few days as my guide spoke to me, is that I had several spiritual helpers who got me out of there because they feared that I could not or would not ultimately end the relationship with him. That perhaps they feared there would be repeated patterns. Those helpers were the spirit of my father, who recently passed, Archangel Michael, and another spiritual helper who I will keep to myself. They carried me out of there to make sure I ended things once and for all. This was one of the most pivotal relationships that I have ever had in my life. It pushed me to raise the bar in my life and raise my standards about how I would allow myself to be treated by somebody, and also, and more importantly, how I would regard myself in future relationships. My well-being comes first. It was truly a turning point in my life, and I can tell you with 100% honesty, I am so grateful for the pain and agony of that relationship. And I am so grateful for the team that saved my life that night. The day after he sent me the email that I was talking about, which was recently, I asked my guys if I should write him back. They gave me the okay. So I wrote him back, and I told him, you know what, I'm glad that the dream helped you. And you know what, we had karmic debt to settle. And our relationship played out exactly as it was supposed to. That I am so freaking happy now, and that I do believe that we both wish each other nothing but the best. Now, he never apologized for the shit he did, and his acknowledgement that I was an important part of his life was not only humorous to me at the time, but it was really also true. I was pivotal in his life in many, many ways. And hearing that after 2 years really didn't mean a hill of beans of difference to me, and it certainly didn't change what had happened or the deep, deep grief I experienced when he broke up with me the first time, kissing me, telling me he loved me, but that he couldn't be with me anymore. But it did give me pause to focus on this one thing, that I am the master of my heart and my life, that I know that everything in my life is purposeful and useful, and that both purpose and use sometimes becomes clear far longer after the pain. To get closure, my friends, you need to stop focusing outward and go within. Shore your shortcomings, your behavior, your thoughts, your beliefs, your focus and reclaim your life and make new commitments to yourself about what you will and won't allow in your relationships and in your life. That is the only way to have closure. Closure comes only to those who get this and who love themselves enough to forgive themselves for carrying pain far too long. I hope that you will let go of the pain you carry from someone else's behavior, all the past hurts, the past disappointments, and find ways to love and honor yourself first. And I hope that with every single experience you've had and will have that might cause you pain, that you will commit to not just feeling the shitty feelings, but ask those feelings to teach you what you need to learn so that you can be done with the painful patterns and create new, healthy, loving ones. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.